News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis. Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Welcome to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning.
And I'm Allan Gilbreth, darkoakmedia.com.
And I'm Maximilian, I guess behind the glass again.
Okay, you guys are all a little off timing today. Let's step it up, gentlemen. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling hotline at 901-683-0989. And we invite you to go to the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page and give us a like. Check out all the action over there. There's already been a couple of posts, Allan. I've posted the must-have item of the week, and I posted a picture from my childhood. This is a picture of me when I was 9 years old, standing on top of the Leaning Tower of Pisa. That's right, folks. We are going in great moments in building history. Allan, let's call this...
We're going someplace real for a change?
Yeah, let's call this the ultimate example of falling upward, or failing upward. How's that? You know, you've heard that term.
I'd like to see falling upward.
Yeah, failing upward, the Leaning Tower of Pisa. And this is...
failing upward is a 9-year-old going upstairs.
Yeah.
If you've ever heard one, so...
Well, great moments in building history can also celebrate overcoming adversity and all the think of all the engineering lessons they learned after this, you know. So
or still learning.
Yeah, sometimes you learn best when you
it's
make
not
a big
30
mistake.
years of stupid. It's 300 years of stupid.
Yeah, this one was.
Try 850 years of stupid. That's where we're at today, Max.
That's when you look at the cardinal and go, "You want to build a what? Where?"
Yeah. Anyway, so we've got that. Allan, our buddy Jay Hill has finally made time in his schedule for us. So you know. The poor guy,
I think I
working,
forgot what he looks like by now.
Right. You know, I hope he can find the place.
What's a Jay Hill?
Yeah. So our buddy Jay Hill from Big M Roofing and Remodeling is going to be dropping in just a bit. And Allan, we've got a really full roster. It's not unheard of that we might mix up the order of things, you know, because we have our must-have item of the week. You've got a great story about a man who found money in an unexpected place, and it just goes to show if you wanna get rich, destroy your house, and you might find things in the walls and under, right? I mean, so.
You never know what's under there.
Yeah, Max has one of his deep cuts. It's probably time for me to stop teasing because I don't know. We may talk about ladders. There's a lot of things.
There's a lot of stuff.
That we may get to, and as we said, we'd love to talk to you. So you can always call us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling hotline at 901-683-0989. But before we get to any of that...
And now, Tool Talk Radio's weekly salute.
Sometimes pressure is a good thing, and sometimes it's not. If you're a medic trying to stop the bleeding on a wound, applying pressure is a good thing. If you're a high school student trying to stay out of trouble, negative peer pressure can be a bad thing. We've seen that, Allan. Okay. When Max, the producer, was hiking through some woods in Japan, he felt a sudden pressure to survive when he encountered a fully grown Asian brown bear. Instinctually, Max's martial arts training kicked in, and he immediately attempted a wrist lock to try to bring the bear to his knees. However, the bear, who seemed to have acquired training of his own, countered with a beautifully fluid roundhouse kick. What is going on here, Allan? Which Max barely avoided by executing a flawless reverse back roll. And after 10 minutes of the two opponents sparring, yet failing to land a single blow, both mammals simultaneously ceased the battle, looked into each other's eye, bowed in respect, and went their separate ways.
Don't even get me started about what the deer I encountered 10 minutes later. No sensei could ever prepare you for a 1-2 hoof strike.
Max leads a weird life. I mean, I've seen it. I've heard things, Allan, but a kung fu battle with a brown bear.
I got a commercial for you later.
No kidding. And, of course, Allan Gilbreth was under legal pressure when he found himself in traffic court pleading his case to the judge. The following are excerpts from the proceedings.
Oh, boy.
Judge, Mr. Gilbreth, you were ticketed for driving 65 miles an hour down the freeway on a motorized barbecue grill. Allan, yes, Your Honor, and I would like to point out that is well within the speed limit. Judge, Mr. Gilbreth, when the officer pulled you over, you were seen brushing a honey glaze onto a rack of pork ribs. You're lucky she didn't write you up for distracted driving. Allan, Your Honor, do you know how difficult it is to grill ribs without drying them out? Judge, the officer also indicated that she considered writing you up for attempted bribery as well. Allan, not at all, sir. That plate of steak tenderloin with the grilled vegetable medley simply slipped out of my hands. Thankfully, the officer was able to catch it. In the end, Allan was ordered to pay a $100 fine, restrict the driving of his vehicle to 4th of July parades, and surrender his secret pork rib marinade recipe to the judge.
Yeah, well, he still calls.
Yeah, I bet he does.
And you say I lead the weird life.
Gosh, this is the weirdest salute so far. Yes, judiciously applied pressure always yields results, and this especially holds true when it comes to working with tools. Finally, we're back on track. For millennia, a simple hand tool has been used by craftspeople to grip, bend, break, and shape materials, all through the use of correctly applied pressure. My friends, we give you pliers. Man, I never thought we'd get there, Allan. But between you two, I chronicling your adventures is becoming a full-time job. So, anyway, Allan, let's talk about pliers.
That's the stuff you hear about.
In my Google research, let's just be honest, this is where the research comes from. Nobody uses the encyclopedia or anything anymore.
Maybe the encyclopedia on Google.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, Allan, my records are showing this thing goes, you can trace this back at least 5,000 years, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and really many cultures were using them.
Well, if depends upon how you define the word pliers.
Exactly.
But tongs, technically tongs, were about the first thing we beat out of copper.
Okay. Well, Allan, here it says a lot of the first ones were made out of wood. What were they using? Okay, so I'm trying to take myself back 3000 BC. What would I be using wooden pliers for? Like, I mean, they're not great if you're melting metal or anything. When did we start melting metal? That's the other important question. Because
here we go. You ready for your food reference?
I gave Allan too many things to
No.
answer,
Well, I'm just looking at you going, you ready for your food reference?
Great.
Because that's where the original tongs, the wooden tongs before, were getting your vessels in and out of the fire.
Okay, well, that would make sense. Because you can quickly grab, or if you want to flip your roast beef or something.
Right, you stab it onto a stick, you put it out there, and, so cooking, the tongs came along almost hand in hand with fire.
Okay. Now, are we picturing like we have today, where it's like basically two pieces of wood
sticks,
with something in the middle serving as a hinge?
And then somebody figured out if you tied some skin around the center of it, you could lever them against each other.
Okay.
And, of course, in Asia, they took it to the extreme to where we now have chopsticks.
Well, I was about to say, Allan,
just
I could
basically
picture
a set of tongs.
I could picture two sticks with a vine wrapped around it.
Yep.
Could technically be some pliers.
It is.
Right.
And you just kind of bent the ends down, and there you go. You could reach in, grab things. So it was a great way of reaching things. It was also a great way of extending your arm.
Well, there you go. Gives you that
you're
extra
trying to
grip.
reach in to get something.
Now I'm just thinking of like I'm a ye old dentist with primitive pliers.
Gosh. Yeah, who were the first? I don't think they were yanking teeth out with these.
Well, back then, our food wasn't processed enough to really have cavities. We don't really get into processed food until we have metal. So, the same pair of pliers he used on the horse's hooves, he'd look at you and say, "Come here, let's take care of that tooth."
Yeah. I think a lot of this, Allan, too, was once they figured out the different ways to curve the handles, because I'm picturing this must have been a two-handed operation. It seems hard to imagine using a set of tongs. Even the tongs I have in my garage, like for snipping things and whatever, it's tough to do it with just one hand. You kind of got to grab them with both hands, so I feel like the key the revolution would have been when they came up with ways to use one-handed pliers, basically.
Well, all right, the first revolution was, of course, the blacksmith.
Okay.
Because what happened the minute we had that very first forge is everybody had in their head, any craftsman went, this would be so much easier if this was a hand longer and bent to the left, or two hands longer and bent. So this is where the blacksmith became known as the father of all tools.
Right. Oh, and they know how to do everything.
The minute, there really is, it's very fuzzy where this happened. When you actually got the recessed connection point is when suddenly tools kind of explode.
Right.
And we get into a lot of artisan, because now the guilds and everything, now you have tools to work with.
Right.
A pre-made, pre-designed tool. The fun thing with this is they were as simple as I remember somebody showed me an early set of basically tweezers.
Oh, yeah.
Which were cut out of a single piece of bamboo so that the back was still connected and the front
I can
actually
see bamboo
levered.
being a good actually wood
And
for that.
it was absolutely fascinating how they had strapped the back of these two little flexible pieces of wood together, and now you had a spring action
Right.
where you could either open or close based on very primitive materials.
Well, here's what I wanted. This is what's always interesting to me, Allan. So you've got this basic tool that's been around for 5,000 years. It comes and goes in different varieties, but it seems like it's a very simple idea. And then all of a sudden something happens where everybody is laser focused on this particular invention and it explodes. So like in 1857, this is right when we're kicking off the Industrial Revolution, there was a company called Klein's Tools.
Yes.
And they suddenly saw the potential in pliers, and they started producing, okay, for one thing, they started making them, okay, yes, here's pliers you can use with one hand. Here's needle nose pliers.
Right.
Here's these things. And they made a wide variety of pliers. I don't know if they had a handle in the vice grips, I know, came from a blacksmith, but this is around the same era.
Right.
And suddenly everybody is interested in pliers and making, a wide variety of pliers. And it's just sort of, it's cool how one era suddenly people, like I wonder what tools we're going to focus on in the future. I feel like magnets are going to play a role in the future, but that's just my prediction.
Klein also had another major advantage in the fact that they didn't look at metal as big chunks of something you had to break down. They actually got into casting.
Oh, these are cast plot. Because now I wonder, Allan, would they be as strong? They're, of course, maybe you don't need a needle nose plier. Doesn't necessarily have to be as strong. It just has to grab a tiny.
But here's the thing: you can always temper. So all of these things started. Nothing happened. There you go.
Okay, you know what this is reminding me of, Allan? The Klein people remind me a lot of people that are starting to embrace 3D printing.
Exactly.
No waste. No, it could be Yeah, because I could see that. So, in other words, you're saying casting triggered where, okay, it is much easier to make this wide variety. We just make a bunch of these molds. We can make our needle nose over here. We make our vice grips over there. And there's virtually no waste or very little waste. So instead of carving it out of a big slab of metal.
Right. Well, you also got into wax casting. And wax casting really gets fun because wax is very soft and easy to work with. So it's easy to make a mold of that perfect pair of pliers. So, you took your best guy, you set him down for a week, and you said, make me the best possible tool you can make me. So he makes the perfect pair of pliers for you. Well, now you sit down and you make a mold of that, and now you can cast as many wax versions as you want, because when you do wax casting, of course, wax burns out of the mold the minute you pour the molten metal in it.
Yeah, to be honest, I don't know if I understand what it looks like. What does wax casting look like? Because are you saying you basically make the shape and it's hollow or something? Or?
All right, this is how, like, you have a big tub of sand that can handle this kind of heat.
Yeah.
Right? So you got your sand, you got your ceramic vessel, but now how do I make the piece of metal the right shape in the sand?
Right.
Well, I got to put something in the sand to hold the spot.
Yeah.
So you make it out of wax. And then when you pour the molten metal in, it burns out the wax, and you get a beautiful cast of whatever it is you were making.
I never knew that's how it worked. That's interesting.
Begins part of your Industrial Revolution because now you and I could both have really similar types of pliers. So that if you have a needle nose and you're sending me a letter and say, okay, Allan, I made this with needle nose pliers and I wrapped the wire 3 times, I could take a very similar set of pliers and a very similar wire and wrap it 3 times and make something really, really close to what you were doing. So this opens up the of craftsmen being able to reproduce something easily and quickly.
This is really reminding.
So
These
the
guys
pliers
would have had a lot in
really-
common with the 3D printers of today. They would have
Exactly.
probably embraced this in a heartbeat.
Oh,
wouldn't it?
these
what it
were
sounds like.
radical. These were radical ideas back then because every pair of pliers was beaten out by a blacksmith, so every pair of pliers was different.
Right.
Here comes this company producing pretty much the exact same size, shape, and description of a tool so that you and I, as craftsmen, would be a little more uniform.
Right. Well, and
that's
Man.
what gave birth to...
you can mass produce them.
Well, now you begin moving down, and now you begin getting standardized nut sizes because we could both have the same size pair of pliers. So,
this is
what a great. I mean, the twist in time right here, Joe, is the birth of steampunk adventure. This is the advent of the garage inventor.
All of this reminds me, Allan, of these, because I am fascinated with the Industrial Revolution, not just the things they invented, but sort of the, the ripple effects. Like somebody goes, okay, wax casting, we're making, making these pliers. Well, that applies to obviously a bunch of other industries. Well, it's sort of a snowball effect. Now you have all these other industries mass producing and so. Man, it's just it just shows how everything can get accelerated very quickly once you embrace a new idea. And I guess the new idea was wax casting, right?
And that was kind of stolen from glass casting.
Seems like glass wouldn't melt as quick, would it?
It doesn't, but glass gave us the ability to create shapes.
Okay.
So when glass blowing several thousand years ago began becoming a big thing, entire wars were fought over who had a glass caster.
Right.
Because now you could make a rigid object that could hold stuff, which began a whole different revolution in how we stored things.
Huh.
And then when you add to it baking a ceramic.
Yeah.
Taking mud, just mud. You're walking through it in the field, mud. But if you cleaned it up right and you shaped it right and you baked it at a high enough heat long enough, it became a whole different product.
That's true.
So all of these things, and now we're kind of getting up to about 1820, 1830, 1840, and now we're getting into a lot of metallurgy. We're getting into a lot of discoveries.
See, this is why I always have hope, Allan, because it's I just look at what a revolutionary time this was, based around just embracing some new ideas. Well, we're going to crack this nut soon of, for example, making plastics that are actually eco-friendly, that can be broken down. We're gonna start coming up and making like our electric vehicles more eco-friendly and more. I really feel. And once it happens, this stuff happens fast. It seems like. So I mean, we've got our problems, but I feel like we can still get out of this, man, if we, keep an open mind and keep fighting.
One of my favorite things is you think back to the technologies of, you and I were both, out running around in the 80s.
Yeah, of course.
TV
Greatest
was
era
there,
of all.
cable was there. But honestly, technologically, outside of the television, how long did it take the boombox to catch on?
Oh, yeah.
We went from...
Everybody had one when we were in the 80s.
Yeah,
man.
well, we went from basically walking around listening to the radio to carrying music portably on us.
Right.
To now we carry nominally we call it a phone, but it's an entertainment
it's a supercomputer in our pocket. Allan, that's a good point, because before, and this is, I guess, sort of related to pliers. I don't know, but when we were little, Allan, I remember those little dumb transistor radios that were, and if it would go in and out of tune. Max, you can't relate to this at all, but you would be lucky. I'd be listening to a Cubs game, and then half of it would get static, and then all of a sudden, here comes the Walkman. And here comes these boom boxes, and suddenly we had like high quality audio that we had access to portably, and that was another revolution.
And
you know?
now, if you and I need a new tool, new pair of new of any different of 100 different pliers, we just walk into a big box store, and there they are, beautiful, shiny, tempered, and uniform.
And uniform, yeah. It's pretty cool stuff, man. And it's funny how you would think, talking about pliers, you would never imagine where the conversation leads, but that's why you can't miss a moment of Tool Talk Radio, folks. So.
I think there is a reason.
Okay. Hey, Allan, it sounds okay. I just got a text. It looks like Jay Hill is awesome. In the building, so we're gonna go let him in and talk to him. So you're listening to Tool Talk Radio here at News Talk 98.9 The Roar, Memphis. We're gonna take a quick break, then we're gonna talk with our good buddy Jay Hill from Big M Roofing and Remodeling.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
I just find it amazing how sometimes your week takes on a theme. It's
never a theme you
it's kind of like, on Monday, the friend calls and says, can you come look at?
What did Mike Tyson say? It's great to have a plan until you get punched in the face.
Exactly. Welcome to certain weeks.
Tool Talk Radio, Saturday mornings at 8. News Talk 98.9. Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
What is the most inspiring thing I ever said to you?
Don't be an idiot. Changed my life.
Whenever I'm about to do something, I think, would an idiot do that? And if they would, I do not do that thing.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
Question, Allan. Would an idiot subject themselves to coming on this show in order to promote their business?
As I watch our producer begin flailing behind the glass.
They clearly don't do that thing.
No, okay. Well, we're about to find out. We're going to throw caution to the wind. Anyway, welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com, our buddy Max behind the glass, and a man who is not an idiot, I don't think. So our buddy Jay Hill from Big M Roofing and Remodeling. Jay, it's like pulling teeth trying to get you in here, man. You are busy. You're always on the move. You're doing something, but it's good to have you here, sir.
Most of the time, just trying to avoid y'all, actually.
There we go. So he's not an idiot.
Yeah. Y'all picked me up with the sheriff's deputy this morning and brought me here.
Absolutely.
It's good to have friends.
Yes, it is.
And speaking of Jay, you can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling hotline at 901-683-0989. And you should know that when you do contact us through that, there is Jay's a big Batman fan. He designed it so here in the studio it lights up. It's like that red phone from the old Batman show, Allan. So, and we appreciate that. That's a nice little touch, nice little detail that you've added for us, Jay. So
well, I wasn't aware of that.
Okay. Anyway, all right. Enough of the.
Nice
hey
try.
Jay, quick question. We've got a few things to get to because there's been some. I don't know if you call them changes, but there's some new options you could say over at Big M Roofing and Remodeling. But I'm kind of curious. What are you guys doing, man? This has been like record heat. What are you guys doing when it's 100 degrees up on the? I mean, it's probably hotter up on the roof, but. How are they enjoying this nice summer?
Well, certainly they're not, and really we have to take that on a case-by-case, day-by-day basis because when it's going to get ambient, 100, 101, 102, something like that, you really, as far as the roofing side of our business goes, you've got to knock off, 2 o'clock, 2:30, and we're just, the sun comes up so early now anyway, you can get a good full day's work in. By 2:30, you can get, 8.5, 9 hours.
You guys start early, man.
Well, you have to. You absolutely have to in this. Now, as far as the interior work is concerned, never a problem. So when it rains and when it's super, super hot, a lot of the guys that have multiple trades, we'll just move them over to an inside job or something where it's not so dadgum hot.
Yeah, because you got, that at Big M Roofing and Remodeling. And so any interesting projects on the remodeling end? Because I like what you were saying about how people are sort of changing the way they live. A lot of people are doing these home offices, or maybe they're taking a second look at their garage and saying we could use this space differently or something.
Yeah. It hasn't really changed any. It kind of, as we have talked in the past, kind of all started around the COVID time where a lot of people started working remotely, and it's really not slowed down that much. Our business has really gravitated a lot toward the inside of the business, and we're doing a ton of interior work, changing walls, making garages offices, doing a lot of fences, tons of windows, and never done any more exterior and interior painting than we are doing right now. Doing a lot of that. Yeah, a lot of it. Along with the roofs.
I guess it's the same thing that people aren't moving. I mean, I know the market is still not caught up. We're very short on inventory. And plus, let's face it, housing prices are expensive right now. So it's a great time to sell, but then, of course, you have to buy a house. So a lot of people are staying put, and they're just really investing in fixing up their own home. So
Yeah, I agree with that 100%.
So Jay, here's something interesting that you told us about, because I don't know if you've had this before, but you said you've now worked with a financing company. Is that right? Because this is kind of a cool option for people.
It's more than a company. This is I spent many years in the automobile industry, and when you go buy an automobile, each automobile dealership has literally a plethora of lenders that are available for their customers. And the reason they have that, of course, is because not really any one lender fits any particular individual.
Sure.
They're all driven by income, credit scores, and all those things,
Right.
as all the listeners probably already know. So what I had been looking for, and the reason we had not offered financing up until now, was I wasn't looking just to have one local little lender to go,
Right.
Do something with. And what we've got now is a platform which is mind-blowing, of over 30 of the biggest lenders in this country, all through our portal, that will absolutely take our quick 90-second application and qualify you amongst all of those at one single time. Anything from a 525 credit score all the way up. And 525 is a pretty low score by standard.
Yeah.
And we've got, 18, of course, qualifying for, we've got 18 months, no interest available now. This is all up and running as of Monday morning. So, and we're getting a lot more calls about this. Again, we've normally said, no, we don't offer anything in the past. That's because most of our people, things were good, but they were just paying for them and they had budgeted them for them. Now it seems like we're getting a lot more calls for that type of thing. So there's no sense in saying no to any business, for sure. So having that available is going to be a real game changer for us, I believe, moving forward.
30 lenders.
30.
Gee whiz. I mean, that's pretty much going to cover anybody, right?
Well, what it does, though, is it lets you choose between what's the best deal for you. You might get 15 approvals out of the 30, for instance. But when you look at the details, you might say, well, this one's got the lowest rate. It's got the best terms. I qualify for this easier. It just fits you better. You choose what's best for you. We just open up the portal for you.
Okay, sorry, Jay. You're taking. I didn't know when you came in here with this news. I didn't know this is because 30. I'm already thinking. What's cool about that is, suppose I'm like, well, you know what, I can pay this off in about 2 years, so I don't need some, or somebody else may say, well, I need 5 years or something, and so you just basically look at what terms fit you the best. And,
absolutely. So
and
if you had
can
a
pick and
700,
choose.
so
That's
if you
pretty
had
cool,
a 700 credit score, for example, Joe, and you were trying to do that as an example, you could take advantage of the introductory deal where literally there'd be no interest over the first 2 years.
Huh. I have a feeling you're going to start getting some calls.
How much do you need, Joe?
Yeah, I know. I'm already
It's a quick application.
Yeah, that's a pretty cool option, Allan.
Well, and here's what's striking me on this. Of course, we've said this 1,000 times. Water is the enemy. The roof is the most important part of your house.
Right.
And if there is an available option, it keeps people from delaying.
Well, see,
like as you found out on your house.
Well, exactly. Because here's
the
the thing,
roof
Al.
is not going to heal. It's not going to magically quit leaking.
Well, here's the thing, Jay, and one of the reasons we love having you on the show is we actually came to Jay. If you remember, Allan, we met Jay. We saw the operation that you run. We looked into Big M Roofing, and then we said, we'd love to have you as a part of Tool Talk Radio. So we were already impressed with what you're doing, and now suddenly you've got he's got financing with 30 different financiers. You're also a former insurance agent, because there's times, just like in the case with Allan and I and our buddy Brandon, we had ours replaced using primarily our homeowners insurance and stuff. So he suddenly got all this expertise at your disposal. There's really no reason not to call. I mean,
Well, and I think that's a great point, Joe, because, one thing, as Solomon said, there's nothing new under the sun. What we have found is the ebb and flow of, especially the roofing business as it relates to insurance claims. It changes a lot. There's an ebb and flow to that like there's nobody's business.
Right.
And there was a season which you guys were involved in, that we were blessed, and some of your friends and so on and so forth were able to take advantage of in terms of getting insurance to take care of that roof and any subsequent damage that came with it. Some of the great big, and we'll leave them nameless for obvious reasons, insurers have absolutely tightened up in terms of their protocol and what they will call enough damage for a full roof replacement now.
Right.
Okay. So having said that, as Allan was just saying, that doesn't mean just because the insurance company says we're not going to buy it that you don't need one.
Right.
Yeah.
So well, wait a second. All of a sudden, I need $15,000 to do a roof where State Farm's only going to pay for a repair, for example.
Right.
Okay, for $5,000. Where'd I get that other $10,000? I don't have it. We can help you get that now.
Yeah, because you don't got
to have a roof.
You got to have a roof.
End of the day,
especially
if you don't
when
have
that
anything,
limb falls through the roof, like I said, Jay, before I met you, every time it would rain, it was because I was up there patching, I was up there and I was dreading it. I was honestly dreading. I'm like, I know I need a new roof, but I don't know. And then you came along with all these options, and I'm like, I wish I'd have met Jay 10 years ago,
Exactly. So, you have to roll with the times and the changes. Certainly, though, there's a lot of changes out there right now. As we know, the talk of the town is always inflation now and the price of fuel and so on. Things are tightening it up slightly. So we just got to make sure that we have all the resources and tools available to a customer, because you do have to take care of your house. You got to take care of your house.
Yeah, it's interesting because between you and Larry Brown, my work, Allan, is a little different. Like if I go to build I maybe that's why I do what I do, but if I go to build a patio cover for somebody, I'm not dealing with insurance, and I'm not usually dealing with financing or anything, Jay, because a lot of times they've just budgeted for it. But you and Larry, you got to be constantly aware of the changing dynamics, and plus what you do is you have to have a roof. People don't have to have a deck or a patio cover. So I mean, you're dealing with time crunches. You're dealing with imperatives that have to be met. So
and let me make this point before we close talking about this, because this is absolutely critical.
Yeah,
we made our name and we got to know each other based on the fact that we felt like we were as best suited, if not the best, in this market to help any homeowner navigate an insurance claim and get a roof replaced on their home. We are still those people. So as I have said, a lot of these insurance companies are tightening up somewhat in terms of protocol. That does not mean in any way, shape, form, or fashion that we are not going to absolutely still call in that claim, fight tooth and nail, and let's see where we are after we've tried. But contempt prior to investigation will never be a part of our business.
Yeah, no, it's important. And I mean, let's face it, in 2 years, it might look totally different. So you guys got to always be on top of it.
May.
Well, all we got to do is have another rough and tumble winter like we just had.
Yeah.
It's hard to imagine, being in the Mid-South, we've got listeners all around the world. So a lot of the world is fairly stable. A little further north of us, the winter's a little harder, but, the summers are a little easier. A little further south from us, they get a lot less winter, but they get a lot more, wet season and that kind of stuff. The Mid-South is just one of those kind of rare places where we get a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
And plus we're in the center of the country, and I think the weatherman was calling it the heat dome.
Yeah.
We're kind of stuck in it right now because we have had, I think yesterday I was watching the weather report, we've had 15 out of the last 30 days have been in excess of 100 degrees.
Right.
Well, he does a lot of things too, Allan.
And now I'm looking at Jay because he knows my next question is going to be, what did that do to now? Full disclosure, I got a brand new shiny roof. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
What did that do to my roof last year?
Yeah.
This
mind-blowing,
mind-numbing, baking heat, especially if that attic is not properly ventilated.
That was the big thing. Absolutely.
That's where I want to point out, if you've got a 20, 30-year-old roof sitting up there and you haven't had a professional let you know if you have enough ventilation, I'll look at Joe and go, what happened to your electricity bill?
Yeah. Well, that's true. Can you talk about that? Because with the roofing systems, you put in the ridge vents and everything. To me, that's revolutionary.
It really is, and that's what Allan is certainly speaking towards. I mean, his roof, and I'm sure you don't mind me sharing this. It wasn't but about 8, 9, 10 years old. It wasn't that old.
No,
certainly. Wind comes through. He's situated right there, catching wind straight out of the south, and plenty of damage up there. Doesn't have anything but a couple of gable vents there.
Right.
And what ends up happening is this. The theory is, and it's based on some really good science now, is that you're going to lose about 30% of your roof's life based on inadequate ventilation. So we talk about the roofing system. We take off those old roofs. We build those ridge vents in, which, again, is going to let 25 to 30 degrees out of your attic at all times in the heat of the summer. Now a real game changer. Now the roofs, the shingles, the whole system's going to last a lot longer. But now that heat's not trying to find its way back down into your home, too. Now, your utility bills, as you're speaking of.
Yeah, ever since you put the new roof in, Jay, our utility bill went down at least like $50 a month.
It'll go down guaranteed 10, 15% a dadgum month.
Yeah.
So the ridge vents pay for the whole thing. Really can pay for itself over the long haul. It's like energy efficient windows. I mean, there's.
Well, exactly. This is one of these things where a lot of people, and this has been kind of a topic for me this whole summer. I like how every year certain topics just kind of seem to walk into your life and stay there.
Yeah.
So a lot of it has been in the 50-year-old category. Right. A lot of buildings got built 50 years ago. A lot of houses got built in the Mid-South 50 years ago.
Right.
And they're all hitting this middle age point. I'd say a really sizable portion of this city was constructed 30 to 50 years ago. I'm not talking downtown, but out around the suburbs and all the fill-in areas. And a lot of these people are running into building codes from 30 to 50 years ago versus the modern materials. Well, we just got through talking about the miracle of pliers. You look at the miracle of the chemical changes to a roof from 50 years ago, which is just basically asphalt and rag and a substrate to put some pebble on it, to now multiple layers, different types of poly. There's all kinds of different layers that go into them. They give them strength. They got better substrate on the surface. So much has changed in 30 years or has improved.
Yeah.
I know people kind of dread looking at these projects, but I'll be honest, you kind of need to look forward to them because the products you're looking at now are so much better than the products we looked at 30 years ago.
Yeah, Jay, I don't remember growing up hearing this word roofing system. I just heard shingles and, things like, was it a sort of a, did they finally reach a time where they're like, okay, we need to look at this comprehensively? Like, when was the ridge vent invented?
The ridge vent came out, nothing in terms of success or improvements, I believe, is ever really just one thing. It's always a combination of things. And I think y'all would agree with that. But, the whole deal with, first of all, the architectural shingle.
Right.
Okay. Came out about 25 years ago, just 96, 97, 98, right in there, okay? They were nothing like they are today, even in these last 25 years.
The art, just for folks that don't know, because, you would see shingles in the old days that had like 3 tabs.
Yes, which had like
those are areas where water can get in, and now architectural shingles are more or less a solid, and they're decorative, and they actually look a lot nicer. So.
They do, but even more than that, I mean, they only had a 70-mile-an-hour wind rating. The architectural shingle of today with GAF, of course, who everybody knows I'm yoked with, has an unlimited wind rating if you build the roofing system. In other words, use a real starter strip, add those ridge vents. There's no wind limit to it at all. that
Isn't
we
that
have.
something?
Yeah, I mean,
Wow.
and it's guaranteed that way.
Right.
So yeah, that all starts about 25 years ago. The ridge vents came straight after that. We were, for example, just went to Myrtle Beach and just came back, and unfortunately, were first responders to a horrible accident from a drunk driver on Interstate 20 right outside of Atlanta, and literally the car flipped upside down, 80 miles an hour, all that. We peeled this guy out of the car upside down at 3 o'clock in the morning, okay?
Gee whiz.
Not a scratch on him, no blood on his white T-shirt or anything. Newer car. He was surrounded in the curtain airbags, the front airbags. He had his seatbelt on, had everything. It was amazing. You do that in a 1965 Pontiac, that's the point everybody's making.
Yeah, I was wondering where you were going with this, Jay.
When you're decapitated, you're dead. It's over with. So
the car's a crumpled pile of aluminum foil on the side of the road.
It's rethinking everything and
it is
a holistic approach. So,
real game changer that you can walk away from something like that just as it is, that you can get the mileage out of a roofing system today if you just buy the right car, buy the right roof.
Yeah, because the thing I like about, Jay makes it tough to segue off of that stuff. But the thing is, the roofing, the reason I guess I keep zeroing in on this ridge vent is because it gets hot in the attic, especially with bad ventilation. And I'm just thinking, okay, it's one thing to have the sun baking the top of your shingle, but then when you have it baking from the inside as well, I mean, it's such a simple concept, but somebody had to come and think of it, and once they did, everybody's using ridge vents now, right?
Yeah, absolutely, because everybody, everything is sold pretty much, I think, most effectively, word of mouth, neighbor to neighbor, friend to friend.
Right.
I've never met anybody that has ridge vents that said, but whatever you do, don't get those.
Yeah.
It'd be like finding somebody that says, man, y'all got way too much cheese on this pizza. I mean, you stuff you don't hear, man.
Said no one
ever said that. Ever.
Well, Jay, how do people get in touch with Big M Roofing and Remodeling?
Well, there's a bunch of ways. Thanks for asking. Of course, 901-484-5645 is our direct line. That actually goes straight to me.
Yeah.
Of course, go to our website, bigmroofingandremodeling.com. We're very proud of the website in the regard that everything you want to know about us, pictures of projects, everything we do, all of our credentials, licensing, insurance. And now, as of Monday morning, the portal will be there for the financing as well, where you can do your application for financing as well. It's all right there.
Yeah, I think the floodgates are going to open on that one, Allan. Because I'm just thinking of it. If you're out there, you've got a problem with your roof. Maybe part of it's covered with your homeowners. Maybe, but you need it. You need that new roof. Well, the financing can cover the other part. And all of it is free. That's the thing. You get the excitement of meeting Jay Hill, which, trust me, that's an experience in and of itself. But now all of the consultations are free, Jay. So.
Absolutely. We're never going to stop fighting to try to maximize that insurance claim if there's any damage up there. So, again, listeners, don't lose sight of that. But what we can't get, if we are unfortunate enough not to get everything we need, we're going to make available to you with some outstanding financing if that's a way for you to go as well. And
somehow we always wind up talking about the roofing, but the remodeling aspect, you've got a lot of great design ideas. You guys are full. You've got a full team that can handle all of the remodeling too. So I mean, it's just there's really no reason not to call Jay.
Everything from plumbing, electrical, any type of trade, whether it be fences, windows, remodeling, painting, we do it all, including the roofs, of course.
Yeah, and man, I bet you're looking forward to the fall, huh, Jay? I mean, I don't
think
know how
everybody
you guys
is right now. Doesn't everybody July 15th, 16th say, boy, I'll be glad when football starts?
Is it cooled off yet?
This is the only place I've ever lived where I wasn't necessarily looking forward to the summer. I hate to say it, but it's just the reality.
Yeah, it's fun for about 4 or 5 weeks.
Yeah, and then you're ready.
Yeah. Thank goodness God did it the way that he did it. Because about the time I'm getting used to something, I get tired of it right after it.
Yeah. All right, Jay, one more time. Give people the contact for Big M Roofing and Remodeling. So
absolutely. 901-484-5645. Or go to bigmroofingandremodeling.com, which is our website.
Okay. Jay, are you sticking around or do you got to get out of here?
I think I'll hang around for a second if y'all don't mind.
Well, good. This is going to be, you're going to enjoy this conversation because Max has got one of his deep cuts. He's going to talk about porch culture in Japan. Then we're going to get to our great moments in building history, talking all about the Leaning Tower of Pisa.
All right.
This is going to be good. You're listening to Tool Talk Radio here at News Talk 98.9 The Roar, Memphis. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis. Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
And welcome to Hour 2 of Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com, and our pal Max over there behind the glass, and the ever-dynamic Jay Hill from Big M Roofing and Remodeling. He's stuck around, Allan. He wants to get in on this on the conversation. And if you want to get in on the conversation, you can call or text us. You can even send pictures. You can reach us in many ways, any day of the week. Really, I failed to mention that the first hour. You can call us or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling hotline, which Jay so kindly provided with the light-up telephone and everything else. The number is 901-683-0989. And, of course, we invite you to go to the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page. Give us a like. Check out all the action over there, including the must-have item of the week, which I posted. I also posted a picture of something we're going to be discussing shortly. It's a picture of me standing on top of the Leaning Tower of Pisa when I was 9 years old, wearing a Cubs hat, I might point out, Allan. And I have a very funny story about that Cubs hat in a minute when we get to that.
I'm glad dementia has been good to you all these years.
Oh, yeah. So. And our buddy Max is going to weigh in. He's got one of his deep cuts coming up. So, Allan, because I already know what's going to happen here, we're going to get carried away with this discussion.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't want to get too carried away before we discuss our good friend Larry Brown from Brown Refrigeration, because it behooves us. I mean, the guy...
I'm sorry, at this point, if you're in the HVAC business, thank you for your service. Because it has been a rough summer.
It's basically, I don't even know what it's like to be in this, to be in his situation. If it's 100 degrees and your AC goes out, obviously you need somebody to react quickly.
You need help
He's
now.
Basically, it sort of reminds me of like a triage situation where it's like, okay, I've got to prioritize whose issues or what. But anyway, when it comes to your HVAC needs, it's not just, okay, let's get this thing blowing out cold air. It's conditioning the air, and in Brown Refrigeration deals with air conditioning on every level, including their the Remy Halo system, which, as we say,
oh my goodness, yes,
it doesn't just blow out clean air; it blows out air that actually cleans.
Yes,
that's very interesting, Allan. It's got the power of the sun inside. It's got that UV light that really recreates the the cleaning particulates.
Yeah, well, UVC has a very negative effect on biological anything. So bacteria, pollen, dander, virus particles, anything that passes through UVC is basically negated.
Right.
Plus the unit itself also produces basically a type of hydrogen peroxide or iodized water that also cleans the air, so particulate drops out of the air, so you have less stuff floating in your air hanging around your house.
Yeah, I'm just picturing, like I said, for me, I always envision it as the scrubbing bubbles. You have just air molecules landing on your countertop and cleaning germs. I mean, that just blows my mind. And of course, you can manage all of it through the smart home technology right on your phone.
Yes,
you can turn your lights on and off. You can adjust the temperature of your thermostat from your home. You can kind of check things out if you're at work. You can do a quick overview of your home and how it's functioning. You can keep it functioning more efficiently and more cost effectively. And they're just good people over there. And like we say, we only deal with dynamic personalities. Just like our buddy Jay Hill, Larry Brown is a very dynamic personality. And if you're really lucky when you call, you get to talk to Mrs. Brown. She's a riot, too.
Yes.
So get in touch with the good people at Brown Refrigeration. You can call them directly at 901-362-1881 or go to their website, brownref.com. All right, Jay. Hey, it's fun to have you stick around for some of our other conversations outside of the roofing game and outside of the remodeling game. So let's kick it off, Max. You've got one of your deep cuts, right?
And now, a deep cut with Maximilian.
Yeah, that sounds like a deep cut. Okay.
I like the Fruit Ninja stuff.
He just likes pushing buttons. So
I know.
All right,
including yours.
Yeah. All right, Max. So talk to us.
This is building off of This is building off of our discussion last week when we were talking about porches, and so I wanted to take a deep dive into the culture behind porches in Japan, because as I've kind of established for a while, I'm quite a Japan fan.
Yeah, well, if you missed last week's show, we were talking about the front porch, not just necessarily. And we were making a distinction. There's a big difference between a front porch and a back porch, and there's a certain almost porch culture because you're participating in the neighborhood, you're hanging out with your neighbors, you're seeing what's going on. So you wanted to build off of that.
Quite literally, yes.
Okay.
I mean, so in Japan, in traditional houses, that is, the porch is called an engawa, and it's more of an equivalent to a veranda because the porch is there's like the interior of the house and everything that's divided by sliding paper doors. And then there's the engawa, which is the porch. And that provides the border between the interior and the exterior. And what's cool about the exteriors in these traditional houses is they're made out of wooden shutters that you could like open and close. And the porch culture in Japan seems very akin to the porch culture in the South. Like, like you're sitting there, sitting on your engawa, your veranda, and, you're just resting in the sun. But it's also a perfect way to kind of form bonds with your community because people who are walking near your house, like the front entrance through your garden, they can see you just sitting there out on your engawa, and it's a perfect opportunity to just have casual conversations with your neighbors.
Exactly. And we're big believers in that. The more you get to know your neighbors, unless you live next to Allan, the better off you'll be, we think. And if you live next to Jay Hill, you've got endless entertainment.
Well, we also established that of a lot of houses that are being built now are going back to having front porches.
Oh, yeah.
Which I am totally stoked about.
Yeah.
I also wanted to mention, you bring back going back to, well, nowadays, like, they like the idea of, like, in Japan, they've been trying to build their houses more out of, like, earthquake-proof materials and everything, but people are starting to revisit the idea of, like, building with wood, even though it's a little bit more vulnerable to the elements, let's just say. There's a little bit more heart to it because the wood is like a living and breathing material, and there's like something kind of soothing and therapeutic to wood versus like the coldness of concrete. They actually said that wood might actually have like psychological benefits, like because of like the fragrance that it produces, and that it perfectly accommodates the climate of Japan because like it's very helpful to have that when like there's like a lot of humidity around. And so a living, breathing material versus cold, sterile concrete might actually be a little bit more beneficial, even if more vulnerable. So it's the idea of embracing the beauty of the imperfect.
Well, you talked about that on another one of your deep cuts, Max. What was it, kintsugi?
Kintsugi, yes.
And it's all about, like a perfect example, you break a bowl, you drop the bowl, and so what they do is they have this interesting way they repair the bowl, and instead of just throwing it out, it's sort of all the lines where it was broken are accented with gold metallic paint, and suddenly you have this really unique, interesting piece that could have just been garbage, but instead they said, now there's a story behind this bowl.
Now
this
it's high art.
Right. And I do like the way that they celebrate imperfection, because you can get a little philosophical here. We're all imperfect. So do we try to hide it, or do we just embrace it and showcase it?
I love being in the South where, as I have been reminded on numerous occasions, we rarely hide things. We usually dress them up and put them out on the porch.
Okay.
Because that's what makes us interesting.
Yeah.
To add to the Japanese culture, if you go back to the World's Fair before Chicago,
right,
where there was a huge introduction to Japanese culture, and we got wonderful things like cherry trees.
Did we get kudzu too?
We got kudzu out of that one too.
Yeah.
But in spite of the kudzu, now the kudzu was actually part of the Mississippi Department of their resources department at that time, trying to preserve hills from being eroded. Yeah. So it was good intentions. So it wasn't necessarily kudzu's fault.
Yeah, Max, I do have a challenge for it. Not a challenge, it's just a request, because one thing I've noticed when in talking to you about Japanese craftsmanship and Japanese sensibilities and everything. They really have a certain respect and a certain appreciation of wood that I feel is almost heightened compared to, because wood is my game. I mean, I'm a woodworker. I love wood and the properties of wood, but they seem to really embrace all of the aspects of wood. So.
There's a really good quote that one of my senseis told me about like the people of Japan. They said the Japanese people are just like all of us, except a little bit more.
Okay.
On occasion. I will throw
brain.
in though, as Joe, as you have picked on my toolkit over the past decades, I have quite a few of Asian woodworking tools that are just spectacular.
Oh yeah,
because you're going for different effects, different looks. Just basically different outcomes.
What is that? I've got one of their saw, the pull saw,
yes,
where it's adjustable and it's got two-sided. It looks like it'd be a cool weapon too, but you can.
It looks like something out of a bad sci-fi movie.
The blade is very thin and flexible, and you can pull. I like that. It's really handy for getting into tight spots, and also just sometimes you need to pull a blade rather than push a blade. So,
well, I ran into a spot in an old commercial building a while back where part of the building had settled.
Yeah.
And some of the doors were rubbing. And, there's a few tricks you can do with the hinges, but fundamentally, you just couldn't quite get the door up off the floor. Mm-hmm. So, a very thin sheet of plywood later down is something to protect the floor, and that exact pull saw let us trim that 1/8 of an inch off the bottom of those doors so that they swung freely.
Yeah. So Max, is a part of the porch culture that we're talking about here, is that the idea with the materials they build? They don't want the material to be cold. They want wood. They want it to be a warm.
Well, it's also because it's kind of more complementary to what's around the area. Like, for example, like people in like the Arctic would use snow. So it's more about like the presence of the numerous of materials more so than like what you had just mentioned.
Okay. All right. Well, Max, we like your deep cuts, man. And hey, here's Allan, you said that when people listen through Spotify or YouTube, we're getting listeners around the world. If we have any Japanese listeners, we'd love for you to contact us because you and Max can trade ideas. That would be cool.
And we could speak Japanese to each other.
Max is fluent in Japanese, so that's just keep that in mind, folks. So
I just realized why I've never had a one-on-one conversation with Max, and it's clearly because I don't have the ability. He's talking about this stuff, and I'm going just right over my head, every bit of it. Kudos to you, Mr. Max.
Oh, I don't know, Jay. You okay, anyway. But
I thought Sensei was an alcoholic beverage, but I guess I'm wrong.
No.
Okay.
Hey, well, now I know that it's an alcoholic beverage, too.
Okay. Well, Max, a second ago we mentioned kintsugi, celebrating the imperfection. Right. I suppose this is a good transition to get into the meat of the conversation.
Most famous. Yeah.
Okay.
And now, great moments in building history.
Whose voice was that?
I can't imagine.
Spooky.
Well, Jay, it's fun having you sit in on this. This is something we started about a month ago. Each week, we want to start taking a look at great moments in building history, and this is all-encompassing. This could be any point in history. This could be zeroing in maybe on a particular piece of technology. It could be zeroing in on a something that was built. It could be big or small, but today, we're talking about the Leaning Tower of Pisa. And I just want to start by saying, full disclosure, I've been to the Leaning Tower of Pisa, Jay. I have stood on top of the Leaning Tower of Pisa. I posted a picture on our Facebook page. As I said, it's a picture of me being, when I was 9 years old, standing on top of the Leaning Tower of Pisa. And if you will notice, you will see two things. You're going to notice I'm wearing a Cubs hat. I'm not some fair weather fan, Allan. I've been a Cubs fan since I was like 3 years old. Also, you're going to notice that I look very uncomfortable. It was. I'm glad that I did it, but it was a little scary. Back in my day, Allan,
scary, Joe.
They didn't have the safety rail. They had two rails, and as I remember, there was a sensation that at any moment you could just fall off of this thing. A 4-degree pitch doesn't sound like a lot, but I'm telling you, it's a lot, Jay. When you've got slick marble, and you're standing up there, and I mean, it feels a lot higher when you're up there.
I don't think there's ever been a reason any better than this that you shouldn't thoroughly vet your contractor. Or you could end up with trouble just like this, and I'm not kidding.
Well, this is a fascinating story, Alan. I just want to say one thing though. So basically, Alan, if you look at this picture on our Facebook page, you're going to see me standing there, and you'll see the cathedral. Actually, I can't remember if it's the baptistry or the cathedral. Anyway, you're going to see the part of the church in the background. And what happened was my stupid twin brother Pete. I was standing up there, and moments after this picture was taken, he thought it would be funny to grab my Cubs hat and throw it off the top of the Leaning Tower of Pisa.
Oh my!
And it was my beloved hat.
So you were following in the great footsteps of Galileo,
right? So I got to the bottom. You know, when we went down, and all I wanted to do was hunt for this hat.
Right.
And in doing so, I missed a golden opportunity because everybody else in our group was going into it's the Pisa Baptistry, which we'll do a deep dive on that some other time, with the famous acoustics, where if you go in there, the acoustics are sort of mind-blowing. And they did a demonstration of that. They shut the doors, and I missed it because I was looking for my Cubs hat, which I never found. So somebody in Italy's walking around with my Cubs hat. But
there's a pigeon out there somewhere with this thing stashed. But,
okay, Alan, let's get into it. I digress. So the Leaning Tower of Pisa, this is very interesting. So I've got my notes here. First of all, it's interesting because the word Pisa is a Greek word meaning marshy land.
Yep.
It's made up of sand, clay, and mud.
Yep.
Perfect spot to build a 8-story tower.
Absolutely. This is one of these
So there's
things,
a big swing and a miss right there. Okay.
Well, all right. Well, first off, the Leaning Tower is not by itself.
No,
it was designed to be the bell tower.
It's the bell tower of the Pisa Cathedral, and then there's a thing called the baptistry, which is separate, and they all lean. Not as bad as the tower, but they're all sinking and they're all doing their thing.
You know, and Monty Python's made fun of it. Everybody has made fun of it. Everybody's talked about it. But, you know, this is what happens when you don't have really good bedrock.
Yeah, and I want to clarify something because I learned something on this deep dive, and I bet you a lot of people had the same misconception as me. So I want to clarify. So they began construction in 1173, and they started and they built the first 2 floors, and right after that it started leaning. Okay, I thought they built the tower, and then after about 50 years it started. No, because that was my whole thing. Is like, okay, it's leaning. After 2 stories, why didn't you just tear it down and start over? That's my first question. Well, then, Jay, they went to, so after 5 years of construction, because this thing's made of like marble and stone. Right. It's heavy. So cutting it, it's not just a matter of going to your big box store, grabbing the materials. You had to make every bit of these materials. You had to haul the stones there. Well, so after 5 years, they stopped. And then, of course, war broke out. And for the next century, they were at war. And so finally it just sat, and it did settle a bit, but it was still leaning. And it took 200 years to build this thing. They stopped and started. But what happened in between is the interesting part. So, Alan, I'm throwing it to you. So,
I was sitting there going, I was waiting. Yeah. I was waiting.
So let's skip 100. Let's fast forward 100 years. We've got 2 stories. It's leaning.
And they look at
now
it.
What do we do? Right. Yeah.
Well, this is where we're going to have to add a little supposition to this.
Okay.
Because this was a religious center, people were inclined to come here.
Yeah.
Now,
in those days, it was the center of the community.
It was, but the other thing is, people forget there was a tourist trade even at this time.
Sure.
You wanted tourists, more or less, or of the faithful on pilgrimages and stuff like that to come see things. Mm-hmm. So here they had this building that was leaning.
Yeah.
So rather than ditch it and start over, it's kind of like figure it out and what else can we do with it? So,
well, if you think about it, think about how much work and effort it took to make those first 2 floors. I mean, that's a lot of materials. They're not going to just scrap it.
And then you begin the challenge, because now we're in the middle of the Renaissance at this point, where we've got the Crusades, the Renaissance, and all this happening, and we've got a lot of great architecture and knowledge going on. So people looked at this as the greatest challenge.
Well, see, that's what we were.
How
it's an
could we-
engineering challenge at this point. So,
And if they ever straighten it up, and it's never going to happen, but if they ever straighten it up, people would be shocked to learn that the tower is actually bent.
it's kind of like a banana.
It
honestly,
is. It's
you
kind of
wouldn't
shaped
know
like a
it from-
banana.
right? Yeah.
Because it leans over.
Right.
Because they were compensating to keep the floors level by making one side a little higher than the other.
Jay, I like to think if you ever encountered a situation like this, you would take you would just scrap it, right? You'd start over.
Jay's
You
been
wouldn't-
shaking his head the whole time.
Well, this is just all mind blowing. You know, I was reading further because this has all been a learning curve for me. But it says that when you go, that only 45 people are, allowed on it at one time.
Right.
And the only thing you can take is a camera
Yeah.
because of the extra weight as well.
Yes.
So
it's still an engineering concern. So we're going to unpack that a little more. We're going to tell you how they compensated and finally got the tower, erected. So anyway, you're listening to Tool Talk Radio here at News Talk 98.9 The Roar Memphis. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
But hear me and hear me well. The day will come. Oh, yes. Mark my word. Your day of reckoning is coming when an evil wind will blow through your little play world and wipe that smug smile off your face. And I'll be there in all my glory, watching as it all comes crumbling down.
News Talk 98.9.
Actually, that's
Memphis.
an actual transcript from the engineers getting chewed out by the owners of the Leaning Tower of Pisa.
Oh, boy.
Anyway, welcome. Very good, Max. And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com.
And this is not Geek Tank Radio.
Did I say Geek Tank?
No,
don't know.
I accidentally did it.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Max. It's okay. But when you make a mistake, you don't necessarily call it out, but I guess we do that here. We own our mistakes.
Well, sometimes as
Beauty
I'm
of
sitting here
imperfection.
looking at the picture of the
Yeah.
tower going,
Yeah.
this is pretty cool.
Okay. And we've also got our buddy Jay Hill from Big M Roofing and Remodeling, who sponsors our hotline. And
He
you
does.
can call or text us any day of the week. We it's nice to get messages, and then we can weigh in on them the next week. So you can call or text us anytime at 901-683-0989. And we invite you to go to the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page, give us a like, and check out all the action over there. Hey, Max, we're going to do things a little out of order because we've got a lot to cram into this last segment. So let's get to our must-have item of the week. Allan, I think we can do this fairly efficiently. So tell people what I'm holding up here.
You are holding up a box of the immortal washers.
Is it a box? It's a little
It's a
plastic.
little
It's got about
plastic.
100
It's
washers.
a blister
it's a
pack.
party pack.
Okay, yeah, exactly. So, washers, whoop-de-doo. Who cares about washers? I'm telling you, Al, when you need washers, and they're cheap. This thing's like $3. I got 100 washers in here. Now, they come in all shapes and sizes, so I would keep a variety. But,
They do.
when you need a washer, you need a washer.
A case in point, I'll give you case in point. Yesterday, I was putting a room back together at a medical facility. Had a lot of shelves.
There you go.
And they said all the screws and everything are there, right?
Yeah,
Wrong size heads.
right.
So, you reach in the tool bag, you grab out the washer assortment, you slap that baby on there, and bam, 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 off you go.
I
Go
would
ahead.
add in the country,
Yeah.
if you do not have a washer, you will have no games to play whatsoever. One of the funnest things I've ever done is to play the game of washers in the country. It's unbelievably fun.
What is that?
It's basically where you're gonna use big washers that are a couple inches in diameter,
Right.
3 inches or so in diameter,
Like a coin.
Exactly, and you're gonna dig a little hole which that washer would fit right in the dirt, and you make it about 2 inches down or so. And the idea is you stand a certain distance away from that, and you've got to pitch that washer to make it land in that hole.
Oh, that sounds a lot like we did in Chicago, Jay. We did pitching quarters
Same thing,
against the
yeah.
wall, but it was technically gambling. I learned how to gamble when I was like 10. Alan.
I'm
you
so
pitch quarters
shocked.
against the wall. Whoever gets the closest keeps them. And so, Jay, yours
yes.
was a lot more wholesome.
Called
than
washers
my,
in the country. I got introduced to it at a very early age.
A wholesome game.
Yeah,
Yes.
but anyway, washers are something that are essential when you do need them, and actually they're good for kids' art projects. They're just good, clean fun.
Or just for getting your clothes clean.
And you really can't hurt yourself with a washer. How do you cut your hand on a washer? I mean,
don't.
I
don't
challenge
ask.
somebody to hurt
Don't-
themselves with a washer.
No. Never make a challenge.
Different
All right,
washer.
Alan, we got a
Never
lot
make
to
a
get to. Let's switch back. Let's continue, folks. If you're just tuning in, we are continuing our discussion of the Leaning Tower of Pisa. And somebody might say, well, you're talking about great moments in building history. This sounds like a building failure. Well, yes, it was. The shocking fact for people I was surprised to learn they built the first 2 stories. It started tilting. They put it on hold for 100 years while they dealt with a war situation. They started building again, and one of the things that's fascinating is, as Allan indicated, if they ever do straighten up the Leaning Tower of Pisa, it's actually got a slight curve to it. It's almost like a banana shape, and that's because their idea, which I don't support, I think this is a terrible idea. Their idea was to take the columns on the low end. So you're thinking, okay, let's build up, and as we go, let's make those columns slightly taller, and by the time we get to the top floor will be level. Well, it didn't happen, Alan, because those columns are heavier, and it actually started tilting more.
Well, all right. So let's
whoever was calling the shots over here, the engineer probably got fired.
Well, let's go back to 1178.
Yeah.
So we're standing there looking at this thing. They dug in and they put in the foundation.
Right.
The foundation is only, now remember, we're trying to build a 200-foot tall bell tower.
Is it 200? It's only 8 stories. I don't know how tall.
It's 183 feet now.
Is
so,
it?
Yeah. So
I didn't know it was that tall.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're trying to build a bell tower. We're trying to build a big, grand bell tower.
Right.
And the fact is, even if they had great subsoil, they only put the foundation in for 3 meters.
They did everything wrong
because
on the
of the marble that they wanted to use.
Mm-hmm.
Now, so they put it in there. They got the thing in. They got up a couple of stories. It started sinking and leaning over. Then Genoa wound up at war for about 100 years.
Right.
Now, here's what people forget is the weight that they left there actually managed to compress the subsoil down enough.
It sort of stabilized
it. Didn't
it.
actually completely fall over.
Can I make another point, Alan? Because I'm sitting here trying to think of the thought process. For one thing, they invested all this money in marble and stone. So they weren't about to just tear it down, I guess. But the thing about it is if you're looking at, okay, there's a big difference between a building that's 2 stories tall leaning versus 8 stories tall. It probably wasn't all that pronounced. They're like, okay. They didn't really envision what that actually looks like by the time you get to 8 stories, probably. So,
then we'll fast forward to about 1260, and we just got through talking about casting.
Yeah,
and a artist famous for his bronze castings. They came along, and here is Guido Speziale.
Oh, I never heard. Yeah.
Yep, and he and a master builder by the name of Giovanni de Simone looked at this and went, we think we can do this. We think we can get this done.
Okay.
And so what they did was they engineered the upper floors to be slightly taller on one side and curve it in a little bit. And then the actual bell chamber didn't get added until like 1372.
That was that's when they completed construction.
When they finally finished
end.
this, and that was Tommaso de Piazzano.
Okay.
But keep in mind, it was already a tourist attraction.
Well, I guess to me, that's probably, we're missing the bigger picture here. It was probably, they had their version of the hot dog vendor out front. Hey, come check out the, I don't know what they sold in those days, but I'm sure people were coming to check this thing out. But at that point, I don't know, man. You're opening yourself up to ridicule. It's a safety issue. You can't let people climb around in this thing.
It depends on how you pitch it. Like anything else.
So there are some salesmen back in the day.
There's somebody looking at this and saying, we're holding the tower up by faith. kind of thing.
Yeah.
You don't actually finish this thing. They don't actually get their last bell until like 1650.
It took a while. Well, so just because we probably got to compress this a little, Alan, because we got a lot to get to. But let's just say they started in 1173. They put it on hold till 1272, and they finished in 1372. They were probably going for like an anniversary, like the 100-year anniversary. But that's 199 years by my calculation. They only spent 20 years of actual construction. The rest of the time they were dealing with wars, famines, and engineering, calculating it. So, but the thing is, in 1990, you fast forward, they closed the tower because all of a sudden it started to really lean. Because I think right now they're at a 4-degree pitch, which doesn't sound like a lot until you. Trust me, folks. I stood in that Leaning Tower. You notice it's very. It reminded me a little bit, Alan, when you go to the Huntsville Space Museum. They have a display where it shows what it's like for the astronauts. Where you go into like a recreation of one of the space shuttles, and they tilt it, and it's very disorienting. Even 4 degrees is very disorienting. Anyway. In 1990, they closed the tower because it was starting to shift again, and they used things like at this point they had to just keep it from tipping over. They were using they put all sorts of heavy lead weights on the high end, and they strapped cables to it, and they were working on it. The eventual way they solved the issue was I guess fracking is where you dig in sideways, right? So they basically did a fracking technique where they dug in very gradually and removed dirt under the high end. And because it was tilting at that point about 5 degrees. And I thought it's something like you get to 5 point something and it's going to fall over. So they got it to a 4-degree tilt, and they got it stable. And now they're talking about, they said this thing should be stable for 200 years. I think that's a pretty ambitious thought, but I don't know. Well, and as Jay mentioned, I think they only let about 40 people in at a time, right? It's not like they're going to bring in hundreds of people at once.
Well, to counterbalance this thing, it took 870 tons of lead.
Right.
You start. This is one of these things where you got to think of things on the scale that you're having to work with.
Right. Yeah.
And we're not trying to move a car. Mm-hmm. We're trying to straighten an entire building.
Right.
And the other problem, there's a little minor thing that you got to throw in here. Seismically, this is not a stable area.
Well,
they have earthquakes.
Yeah, that's true. Italy does get earthquakes. So,
So, bizarrely...
And we don't even count floods. This is a very flat area.
Right.
We don't know how many floods hit this place.
But oddly and bizarrely, the very soft ground that may eventually bring the tower down is what makes it survive earthquakes.
Well, I was about to say, Alan, it makes me think it's almost like a cushioned surface. So... Anyway, folks, I would strongly encourage you to do a deep dive on the Leaning Tower of Pisa. And you know what I found, Alan? I looked up a lot of videos on YouTube. The best videos I found one that said the Leaning Tower of Pisa for kids. Basically, it was about a 5-minute video. It didn't give you any fluff or any whatever. It just told you the nuts and bolts, and it's pretty interesting. And we didn't even get into the whole cathedral or the baptistry. That construction is fascinating as well. But it reminds me a little of the Apollo 13 mission where everything went wrong, and because of that, they learned all sorts of valuable lessons about what not to do or what to do in the future. And I think the Leaning Tower of Pisa probably had a lot of life lessons, and let's face it, it's pretty fun. Everybody is fascinated by the Leaning Tower.
And it's studied a lot.
I bet it is.
Yeah, modern architecture is all right. Let's learn. Let's learn.
Yeah, so absolutely. So all right. Well, Alan, we tease this, and this is a fascinating story. I think this is gonna pique his interest. But we're shifting gears, and you've got a really interesting story coming out of New Jersey. Right. So.
Well, yeah. All right.
This just happened, right? Well, this is breaking news.
This is honestly breaking news. This is like July 13th.
Okay, that's breaking. Yeah,
that's pretty breaking for us after talking about the Leaning Tower of Pisa. Here we go. All right. There has always been the legends of Grandpa didn't like the bank, so he buried all his money in a mason jar. He put it under the mattress and that kind of stuff.
That's what you do, Jay, right? You bury your money.
I don't have any money. As a matter of fact, right now, all of my money is tied up in cash. All of it.
Okay, yeah.
So-
no, especially people that lived through the Great Depression.
Oh my gosh, yes. So,
and you can't blame them, really.
you know, I even have a couple of personal stories with this, but this is the one that just hit the news. New Jersey man unearths buried cash during a home renovation. So he's working next to the driveway. He's using a little mini excavator. He's got one of those little baby excavators like you can put in the back of your truck.
Yeah.
And he's working on this little area, and he's trying to pull debris out from under the house and out of the crawl space and all that. And, you know, there's tree roots and there's trash and there's debris. So he just throws all this stuff over on what he calls the fill pile.
Right.
I'm going to come back later and clean this up, and I'm going to use this to fill in some dirt. Well, it rains that night. He goes out there the next day, and the color of money catches his eye.
Yeah.
On the top of the pile.
It's always interesting if you see like a $20 bill laying on the ground, how, boom, it's something then you react like, wow.
That'll get your attention.
Yeah. So he's seeing this in his mud pile.
What he has are these two little, you know, back in the day, they used to roll money up in little tight bundles, put a rubber band on them or a string, and you put them in a jar and you hide your money. Well, he has two tightly wound wads of 10s and 20s totaling $1,000. And they're all from the year 1934.
Didn't he say at first that he thought they were like tree roots because they were covered, they were all brown, and then the rain washes it out.
Like that. So
well, hats off to, I will say this, I didn't even think about this part of it, but the fact that the money survived underground with all the, why didn't it just rot? That's pretty good.
Well, it was
pretty well-made money.
It was in the crawl space, so it was nice and dry.
Okay, gotcha.
So it was protected until he got to digging all this out. And, of course, it's still covered in dirt and all that. He thought they were tree roots or weeds or whatever and threw them over there to the side. Well, now he's walked out there the next morning and gone, you know, that ain't a weed.
No. But Allan, here's the thing. This is not an uncommon occurrence. Back in the day, Jay, you probably got relatives from that were around. I know my mom, she was around during the Great Depression. They did not trust banks. You don't throw anything away.
Throw away nothing.
It's a whole different mindset.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So and we've heard stories in the past, people have found grandma's jewelry in the walls after they were renovating a house. They found the Superman comic stuffed in the
attic. Right.
So if you have an older home, you don't know what's living in it. My suggestion is just tear everything apart in your house. You know, it may cost you tens of thousands. Right. Call Jay Hill.
Like, I'll find money in your house for you.
If I don't, we'll come fix it.
Yeah, and especially if you've got to do demolition work, do your own demo work because you don't know what you might find. But Allan, here's the thing: we were speculating on this.
Yes.
I want to say this: the majority of those bills were dated 1934. Okay, red flag right there. That's obviously right around. It's. I guess we were still in the middle of the Depression at that point.
And we're prohibition.
Okay. Hey, hold on. Okay, so what caught my attention was in today's money, $1,000 is in those days would have been worth $22,000.
Right.
Well, it was $1,000 precisely. And I thought, it's somebody's life savings. It's somebody, whatever. Well, Allan, who writes novels about, nefarious characters, you zeroed in on the fact that it was $1,000.
$1,000. It's too.
What do you think we're looking at?
Rolled. I'm thinking, I'm just one of those. It's two tightly rolled little packages, and somebody very carefully hid this in the crawl space.
Give us the point, Allan, please.
Was this some? This is maybe during Prohibition.
This has got to be. This is
so one of Al Capone's
dirty money.
It's got to be some kind of payoff or buy or something. That's just my imagination. But when you think about it, it's two tightly rolled up little cigars made of money hidden in the crawl space under the house.
See, I'm picturing the scenario. You got Al Capone. Did he run the northern operation up there, or was he whoever his equivalent? Maybe. Well, I knew he was Chicago, but I thought he was even working up in Canada and stuff.
So,
okay, whoever it was, they had an operative that like he was thinking, I've got to make a payoff or something like that, or they won't notice if I pocket this $1,000 payment or something, and then maybe he got bumped off and whatever. It's not insignificant that it's exactly $1,000. If Grandma was saving her life savings, she would have move
But all
somewhere.
the bills
and
were the same year. That's why
Right.
it's kind of like this was all one package of money, one time, and the imagination can run wild with what was going on.
Are we sure this isn't counterfeit money?
Oh, no, it's real money.
Because it's exactly okay.
No, it's real money. They
Were they
got
counterfeting
that.
money back then? I don't even know.
Why not?
The
Man?
minute you had money anywhere, there was counterfeit money an hour later. And that's pretty much around the world. But this was just one of those fascinating, wonderful things I can think of a house that burned down in Memphis about 30, 40 years ago. While they were cleaning up the debris, they found a lot of silver dollars.
Oh, yeah.
That had been...
From when? Like, we took...
Oh, these were turn of the century. These were 1900s.
Same thing?
And
somebody was hiding there?
Somebody had stashed money someplace in the house, and when the house burned down, it got found.
Okay.
I can think of at least 2 cases where the family was doing the after funeral, we're cleaning up the house, and we're taking care of everything. And I know in one case, they found, honestly, thousands of dollars hidden everywhere in this house.
Just happened to me. Just bought an investment property across the street from me. Lady, it was time for her to move on to the next level of care.
Right.
I got all of the contents, unfortunately.
Right.
Just they didn't need them. I said, well, y'all go ahead, do your thing. The girl that I hired to come over and help me kind of get this stuff in position to sell it so we could start getting the house ready to sell, she went through everything. And in the books, this is like the 10th time I have had an experience like this. People from the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s that were born in those eras, they had money in books.
Yes, they
I
did.
later found out at the Carm place up here, the Salvation Army, if you will, resale store, that when people drop off books there, they constantly find money in between the pages of books.
I didn't think, that's a good point. Imagine that. And
but you've got a lot of books, you don't know where they are. You just forget.
I could see that happening too because, somebody hides their life savings. They forget to tell anybody. They pass away. But who knows how many hidden treasures are right under your feet or right next to you.
The amount of money found in Bibles.
Oh, that's a good point.
Is shocking.
Yeah.
The other one, of course, the money hidden in the mattress. That is I know of at least one real case of that.
Yeah.
And another one is bedpost. Bedpost.
Yeah.
I know of at least one case where, honestly, hundreds of dollars was hidden in the ornamental caps on a bedpost.
Yeah. I don't know, man.
Just people, the old thing of, Weird Uncle Bobby, he put everything in a jar and buried it in the backyard somewhere. These things actually happen. If you go ask your older relatives, I am sure there's a treasure hunt story somewhere in your family.
Well, folks, if you've had an interesting encounter like this, let us know. We'd like, we'll pick up on this next week.
We would love to talk to you about it.
Get in touch with us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline and share. These are the stories we love. This is fun stuff. You can leave a message anytime. You can even send pictures if you've got photo evidence at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. And Jay, before we get out of here, once again, how do people get in touch if they have any roofing or remodeling or any issues that they need to talk to you about?
901-484-5645 is my direct line. Real hands-on in that regard. You can call me personally, or you can certainly go to our website, which is bigmroofingandremodeling.com.
Hey, let me put you on the spot, Jay. So, wait, and when you say "and," it's like the word "and" is in
Absolutely.
there. So I kind of, okay, anyway, we'll talk later. But, Brown Refrigeration's brownref.com. You ever thought of going that route, Jay? I mean, brevity is the soul of wit.
I'm going to tell you something. When we were put in this position where we had to choose this, I could have done bigmroofing.net.
Yeah.
But to do .com,
I had
to put some. That's what I thought.
I salute you. You got,
but you have to know how to spell in order to find us, and that's
There you go. So yeah. So he only wants people that know how to spell to talk to him. But boy, Jay, it's been fun having you.
It has been a blast. Thanks for having me, guys.
The time has flown, and man, it's already over. So on behalf of my buddy Allan Gilbreth, our buddy Max behind the glass, our good pal Jay Hill from Big M Roofing and Remodeling, I'm Joe Thorderson. Thanks for listening to Tool Talk Radio, and we'll see you next week.